Yeah. But they decided they wanted to do a tent.
It is now 8 a.m., so I will call the July 3rd, 2018 County Council meeting to order, and we'll start, please, with honoring our country with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our first item on the agenda today is Kim Erdly, please. Would you please come forward and introduce yourself and let us know who you represent.
Good morning. I'm Kim Erdly, Whitley County Assessor. I have brought forth to you a proposal from Exoft for changing our software vendor, which is our CAMA vendor in the assessor's office, from the current vendor Thomson Reuters that we have. Not asking for the additional appropriation today. We have to publicize that so many days in advance. So I will be back in August to hopefully ask for the appropriation at that time. We're at the end of our, we balanced and rolled with the auditor on our values. So right now we're at the beginning where we're going to be starting our 2019 live, which we can't do until we get all of our values all balanced. We're also at the beginning of starting our data entry for our next cyclical reassessment that we started May 1. So the timing of this is a real good time to make this software switch for us. Well, it offers all of our personal property, our real property, appeals, sales disclosure information, everything into one system. We'll also be able, it has capabilities of being able to access all of our data live from the field when we do our cyclical reassessment, as long as our GIS information. So it's going to be really beneficial for the assessor's office and allow us to operate a lot more efficient in our office for what we have to do.
Very good. Any questions of Kim?
I've talked to probably somebody or said to you about what she's doing with it. I think it's a great idea, and it's not going to affect the budget any because it's coming out of her reassessment fund, which is already too big that we've got to reduce. So I'd move we approve what she's her request.
Do we need to take action on it today, or we need to wait until our August meeting?
I think we probably need to wait until she actually requests.
Right, Jen, we have to run the publication first, correct? Yes.
I mean, we can give it a...
Straw vote.
You have our support.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Also, the commissioners gave a favorable pass to this.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's exactly right. I was here yesterday, and you guys did talk to it. I think there was even some discussion on why we hadn't looked at this before, and that was brought up yesterday that it was previous to you making those decisions. So we appreciate you being diligent and making those choices for us that
I'm
bring
excited
us
about
in
it.
bring us to the right place here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you all have a good day.
And next on the agenda, please, will be Paula Worden and Julie Jensen Kelly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Paula Worden. I'm the Director of Communications. For any of you that don't know me, I've been here 28 years, going on 29 years. The budget I sent out about a month ago, did you all get your packets? That is the budget that is effective and approved July 1 by the Department of Corrections. There's an additional full-time shift supervisor that will be funded through user fees. That's the salary and benefits. Any questions about the budget before?
I have extra copies if anyone needs.
So I do need the salary amendment signed and approved.
Entertain a motion for the salary amendment ordinance, please.
I move we approve it. I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? This time I put to vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. Let it be noted that it was cast unanimously of all members present.
Thank you. I just did want to mention also, we did ask for continued funding through Department of Corrections for Veterans Treatment Court. We did not receive that, but we did receive the money from the Office of Court Services, and I have a copy of that grant. So that program will continue to be funded. I do expect the Department of Corrections to pick it up next year because it was one of their priorities of funding this year, but they must have known this funding was in the works that we would be able to continue as we are now.
Thank you.
Any questions from you? Also, Julie's going to pass out just a snapshot, I know Thor gets it every week, of our numbers at Community Corrections as of Monday, as well as our current staff who is serving in different roles within the department.
My question would be, because I don't remember from last year, your budget starts on July 1st.
Correct.
So the budget that you presented to, do we need to approve that today?
Yes. So what happened is we came in January and actually presented it before we submitted it to the Department of Corrections. Amy, Julie, and I were here in January. That's when we submitted to you. Then we submitted to the Department of Corrections for final approval. The budget I mailed out to you, when did I send that packet? In June. That was what they actually approved, effective July 1. The only change that would happen, that would result in your budget hearings, is we do not grant any salary increases unless the county council approves them. And so I won't know what adjustments to make until you guys make your decision as far as if there are any pay increases. If there aren't any, then there's no adjustments to my budget.
Sure.
If there are, the only adjustments will be made to the project income user fees. The state will not award any increases, so I would have to increase my user fee budget by whatever salary increases are approved by you.
So currently, right now, then, you are under an approved budget, so we don't need to approve the budget you're presenting because it's going to start in, well, I mean, it starts. It'll start.
I've always just come to council, obviously, because, you know, you administer the funds. So I always present the budget before we even submit it, and then once it's approved, I bring it to you. But Jana and I, we've been working what makes sense, and it makes sense to put it in when it's effective, which starts July 1, and that's why I mailed the packet out ahead of time. So yes, it does start July. So do I need to come back at the end? Is that what you're asking? Do I come back for budget hearings? It doesn't really probably make any sense.
Well, how does the board feel? Does the board want Paula to come back for the
There's
budget hearing?
no problem. No.
I'm happy to do so.
You can come back and see us.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, always glad to see you.
You don't need to come back.
Okay. And finally, Mark, last year you were gracious enough, Commissioner, to fund our utilities, Columbia City utility bill. Mark has put that in his budget this year, so I'm just asking your consideration to continue funding the Columbia City utilities, and I'll pay for the NIPSCO. Obviously, utilities is the much higher bill. It's about $4,500 a month. It was paid out of seeded? No, seeded.
Right now, it's,
Good. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, please, will be John Myers for a tax abatement request.
I'm John Myers with the, must have said Indiana Economic Development Corporation, the Whitley County Economic Development Corporation. And when I submitted my items for this meeting earlier in June, I think you got my memo on the abate, for the abatement request there. I've had this project and another project that you reviewed in June has kind of developed. I added a couple of things to your packet over the weekend, or sent out some stuff, and I apologize for the last minute nature of that, but having been on boards myself, I'd much rather get stuff out to folks ahead of time, even if it's only a day or two, so they have some time to think about what's going on, instead of just surprising people at a meeting and discussing something from scratch. So, and I also like to say, these are two projects that are currently in the works, and have had some conversations over the last, at least the last couple of months with folks about the general economic status of the county and whether we should be looking at economic development in kind of its traditional sense of jobs and investment, and maybe shifting some of that focus to talent recruitment, talent development, population growth. We've spent a lot of time and money pursuing jobs and pursuing additional investment, but just think that perhaps it's time to shift our focus a little bit and start. We really have the jobs, and as we can see, hourly wages are going up throughout the county, and maybe it's time to focus a little differently. So these are two items that were still in the pipeline, but just wanted to make clear that this may be the last type of these types of projects that we're going to be talking about for a little while, assuming that everybody in county government wants me to pursue that different line of policy. So, having said all of that, my first, the item that I submitted on June 21st, having to do with a tax abatement for a new spec building out at the Rail Connect Business Park. This would be similar to, well, it's very similar to the project that we did when we built the other spec building, or when the Redevelopment Commission built the other spec building out at Rail Connect a couple of years ago. So this is essentially a partnership between the Redevelopment Commission and Whitley Rail Connect Investments 2. So I'm here first off to ask the council to consider an abatement on behalf of that entity. So that's the first piece. I'd point out that this property's been owned by the Redevelopment Commission for the last 10 years, or not 10 years, 8 years, since 2010. We've pushed the property as best we can, but there were some issues with the level of the soil and the terrain, and I don't think the Redevelopment Commission really had an interest in spending money up front to do the dirt work to make that lot suitable for construction. And then an opportunity came up for us about 6 months ago to, like I said, partner with Whitley Rail Connect Investments to have them do the dirt work and put up a spec building, kind of an all-inclusive kind of thing. And so instead of having to outlay money, we know that, or large sums of money, and not knowing what is going to be done with it, we have the opportunity to do this project, get a building up. We've already had substantial interest in the building. If I get to rambling too much and you don't want to hear all of this, that's fine. Just wave. So what I'm here to ask for on this particular project is number one, to consider the abatement that's being requested. Number two, approve a lease agreement that the Redevelopment Commission has entered into, which is a part of the kind of all of the documents that have to go in place for this project. The lease agreement under the statute covering redevelopment commissions say that the Redevelopment Commission, in adopting a lease, needs to come to the county council to get approval for that. So that's why that's on the agenda along with the abatement, or I shouldn't say on the agenda, but why I'm bringing that up at this point with the tax abatement. So I guess with respect to that project, that's really all I have to say, and be more than happy to answer any questions. I know we've got redevelopment commission members here to answer any questions you may have as well.
I guess I have a question. I guess I don't totally understand the process, but who on this building is actually going to receive the benefit of the tax abatement?
So in this case, initially, it will be the redevelopment commission as a partner with Whitley County, because part of the deal is that the Whitley County Redevelopment Commission will reimburse the developer for some of the carrying costs, taxes being one aspect of that. So initially, it would just be circulating the dollars back to the county. After the building's leased or sold, whoever the company is that leases the building, they will get the benefit of it based on a triple net lease, where they have to pay the lease rental plus the taxes and insurance and everything else that goes along with it. So so that will be baked into any incentive discussions with any new company that comes into that location to say, listen, we've already put out X number of dollars for this project, so.
So essentially, we pass along to whoever buys the building.
Right.
And we have rules in place as far as what the parameters have to be for them to qualify for that abatement and still continue to.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So what we would do, each year, whoever is taking advantage of the abatement has to file a CF1 form, a compliance form, with the county council for their approval, whether or not to continue the abatement from year to year. So, so whether it's somebody taking advantage of it or not taking advantage of it, that's an annual decision that this group can consider on a year-to-year basis.
Might add that the redevelopment commission gave it a favorable vote,
Oh, yeah.
and also that this would take up all the land that we have out there in Rail Connect, correct, John?
Yep.
So that would be full out there then after this is completed.
How confident are we that the building will be filled quickly?
We have between 3 and 4 companies that are actually looking at it right now. I, of course, can't promise anything, but
Right.
I don't think it'll last that long, because everybody's looking for space, and this is right size in terms of footprint, right size in terms of ceiling height. The design for the building includes a driveway where you can bring trucks in one side, take product out the other side, which is something we get a lot of requests for. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic.
We're dealing with the same people we dealt with before on the other spec building. And that turned out well. And
Yeah.
so a pretty similar setup, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks to me like when I read it.
And then, in that case, even after the project was done, the redevelopment commission, I think, got close to $70,000 back in terms of, again, because it's more of a partnership type thing, where once certain targets are met, then we essentially, redevelopment commission splits the profits with the developer.
So what do you think will hold up? Not being interested in it, but yet they are when you put the building up.
Sure.
And they can just buy the building.
Yeah, I think it was just, well, there's 2 things. Right now, everybody wants something as soon as possible. And so the idea of starting from scratch and having to move all of the dirt that needed to be moved, it was not only a time consideration, but a price consideration. I mean, we're talking about over $1 million to make the site building ready, if you will. And so this transaction between the abatement and the lease will not only get the site done, but will also get the new road built. And So again, we're getting much better value, at least in my opinion, than what we would have done if we would have, if the redevelopment commission had done it itself and then kind of taken the risk on itself that somebody might or might not show up for it. When you have a developer that's putting private money into the deal, they don't have any interest in sitting around with an empty building. They're out hustling, getting people to move into it, as well as, well, what the EDC does.
Questions, I call for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the spec building at Real Park. Tax abatement.
Do we have a resolution number?
Resolution 2018.
2018 03.
And then,
10 years tax abatement.
And,
I'll second his motion.
sorry, it's not right.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? John, you have something you want to say?
Well, I was just going to add, and maybe it's a separate motion, but the council needs to approve the lease agreement that's part of the transaction that redevelopment commission's entered into as well.
So that'd be part of another motion.
What's that?
I think that's all in that resolution.
It's all in the resolution.
Oh, yeah.
So the redevelopment commission attorney and the county attorney have been working on this all weekend, so, all last week and all weekend, so they know what's what.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and I'll ask for any further discussion. Hearing none, we'll put it to vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And opposed, the same. Let me show that it was passed unanimously with all board members present.
Now, if I may,
Yep.
the additional memo that I sent out Sunday morning has to do with PB development, which is the abatement that you approved at the June 5th meeting, having to do with Wright Medical Group, which just announced their groundbreaking this last week out at Park 30. It's a similar situation where having to do with the lease portion of the agreement. So there's really two components. In order to perhaps maintain better control over the funds that are being expended on this, rather than just doing some sort of grant or something like that, using seeded funds. We have put together a loan agreement which will loan the developer the money versus just writing a check for the money. And similarly, the redevelopment commission, as part of that project, will enter into a lease agreement which will help to pay for the road and retention pond, so basically the public infrastructure that will go in that site. So, like I said, I think it gives the commissioners perhaps a little more control because they have a loan agreement that's in place with the developer. We also will have a lease agreement between the redevelopment commission and the developer that will span, I believe, 2 years is what we settled on. Again, just not only ensures that the project gets done correctly, but also gives us, it just helps with the cash flow, make sure that we're compliant with the state statutes that govern redevelopment commissions, and I don't know, kind of takes our game up a little bit. So I think there are two pieces to that. One was the revolving loan fund that the commissioners established on Monday. I believe they need the council's approval for that to enter into the loan. And then And then again, there will be a lease agreement between the redevelopment commission and PB Development. And again, those terms have been negotiated, but the statute requires the council to consider that lease agreement and essentially give the redevelopment commission permission to enter into a lease agreement.
John, do you have, or Alan, do you have a picture of that, so the rest of this?
I got it.
And is that correct, Alan, that takes up all the ground out there now, too?
Yes, sir. So, we were raised for the last project, really helping to build out the rest of the acreage at Real Fact. This project will really set up the last significant piece of acreage. Cul-de-sac, engineered to serve all three lots. That will really fill out the rest. And just, we'd like to put in a ski slope. That has contour issues as far as buildable, ready to go. This is really helping them to finalize that.
And there is a company interested in that first plot there, first lot right there.
Yes, sir. So as John mentioned, last week had a groundbreaking event with Right Medical. And like as a Bionet, like a Houston office in the area. They'd like to double the size of the office, place the office here. Fort Wayne.
Yeah, I worked it out about $43 an hour, so.
It builds into, I think,
Yeah, I would add, this project, the Wright Medical project, Brian Emmerich out at Micropulse brought to us because he knew they were interested, and it's kind of nice having your business folks kind of keeping an eye on great projects for you as well. But he works closely with the company already and is a supplier for them, and so it was nice for him in terms of shipping costs and other things to work with their engineers, because this will be an R&D facility, it won't be a production facility. So it's all engineers. So if anybody needs a new shoulder, they'll probably be designing it here in Columbia City before long.
I think we got a candidate back here, too.
There's a lot of research.
Council's question.
George, do you have anything you want to say?
I'd just like to say that as far as commissioners, we did pass ordinance yesterday to approve the revolving loan fund, and we'd like to present that to the council for consideration.
Right now, we want what? A motion to approve.
The revolving loan fund?
I think, and do you have a resolution? There's another resolution. It's just like the resolution that was passed.
What would be the resolution around this?
Oh, 04, right? Was the last one 03?
Thousand 18-04. For your
Make a motion that we approve the 2018-04 revolving loan fund.
I second the motion.
Second, any further discussion? We'll put the vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And opposed, the same, and let it be shown that it's passed unanimously with all members present.
Was the lease referenced in that as well? Okay. Again, just making sure we have all the boxes checked.
Whatever you have in that resolution, it's just
Okay.
Couple quick things for ideas for John before he gets off the hot seat on it. I attended the State Board of Accounts called meeting on it, and you always learn more from your fellow council members from all over the state than you do from what everybody's saying on it. One of the counties around on tax abatement compliance on it, during the year that the compliance comes up on it, they have a council member or a commissioner, and probably you go out and visit that company, see just exactly what's taking place, how they're in compliance on it. From my experiences on it, we gave Thor the permission to sign everything on it. When I was chairman, I was a little apprehensive about signing my name multiple times on it. And an idea for next year on it, that maybe we might adopt a policy on doing this, or we'll go out and visit the companies, see how they're doing, and going from there. Just an idea of thought, and see if we can progress into this particular idea on it. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know Columbia City currently does that. The city council, they like, well, I will go out, but they like to have the companies come in at least once a year and talk about what they've done and plans, you know, maybe for the future, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I try to get out and visit as much as I can, and again, it's just kind of tough sometimes to get everybody scheduled on the same day.
Right, it's a situation where you'd have to schedule with their particular leaders and go in. And rather, I'm not advocating an unannounced visit on it.
Oh, no.
Something set up and see how the compliance is going and how they're doing with their business, et cetera, down through.
Yeah, so I think from a scheduling standpoint, for me, the easiest thing would be if the council, you know, designated one or two people to be the council visitors or whatever, and then I know who to reach out to. But yeah, that's anything that you guys want, so you know you're getting your dollar's worth. More than happy to set it up.
Yeah, once they come in and make their application for tax abatement, you seem to lose your contact with them at that point. And it's just kind of a follow-up that they're in compliance and go from there.
We're gonna have probably in excess of 50 of those contracts at this point, too. Would you
It's
say?
a long list.
Yeah.
So, we'll do one a week for the next year.
Fuel for thought for next year.
Yeah.
Or you could say, I mean, if there are certain companies in particular that are higher priority, of course, we could prioritize those. Because maybe, you know, maybe there are folks that left and just, or, you know, you haven't seen anything of, but others maybe you see more of and are more aware of what they're up to. But, yeah, just, yeah, tell me what you want and we'll do it.
We'd still need to check to review their report every year, whether they have hired a number of people and they agreed to.
I think when we appoint committees and so forth next year, that would be a good opportunity to make that a new one. I know last year we were able to eliminate some that we didn't need anymore. That might be an opportunity for everyone to start thinking about if that's something they'd like to have interest in, and just work closely with John in that. And it wouldn't have to be whoever's necessarily tied to the EDC as far as your board. I mean, it could be.
Yeah,
but,
it could be anybody.
so if you guys want to start putting some thought into that, and Councilman LaRue and Bayman, I'll excuse you from any consideration.
I was going to say.
We were thinking that's a good idea.
Maybe you can appoint special ambassadors for the council and just put them on full time.
That's a grand title.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, anything else?
Nope.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda are the additional appropriation requests.
Which one you want to start with?
I don't care, whichever one you have on top.
Okay, well, the first one would be seated. Both the seated and the CUME capital development, there have been projects that have been approved since we did the budget last year, and the amount that we've expensed does not cover what was, or the amount that we budgeted does not cover the expenses, so we need to do an additional appropriation. The cash is there, it's just to cover and make sure that our appropriation amount is not negative, so.
Which one is that? What amount?
They're both the same, or for the same reason, but for CETA, it's $250,000.
And that additional 250,000 is for?
It's for several different projects that have been approved.
Normally, what we would do is that onsite, offsite would be a $250,000 appropriation or budgeted item. And because of the fact that we had the health loan, we paid the health loan on the $200,000. But we also had some additional budgeted monies for repairs that we're going to have to appropriate another $250,000 out of it.
Okay, and for the additional appropriation, or the resolution for $250,000 for the seated, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve it.
I have a motion, is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? This time I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same, and let it be shown that it was passed unanimously with all members present. And then follow up with the additional appropriation for the $150,000, and that is for
CUME capital.
CUME cap. Call for a motion for approval.
I move we approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same. Let it should be shown that it was passed unanimously with all members present.
And the next one, okay, and the next one is the jailers. What had happened is you guys had approved 2 new jailer positions, and the paperwork didn't get done for it. I went on maternity leave and it just didn't get done, so I'm just kind of doing cleanup on it, and this is now the paperwork to approve for you guys for those positions to be appropriated.
So those positions, you're appropriating the money from the Lowit funds to pay for those positions?
Yep, and you've already approved the positions, this is just the paperwork, so.
Already approved it, do we need a motion?
To approve the additional appropriation, for me to appropriate the funds, correct.
So you need a motion for the funds to go into the county general to pay those positions from the Lowit funds? Is that what we're doing?
No, you're appropriating it into the Lowit. It has nothing to do with county general.
Okay.
Yep.
I move that we approve this request as well.
Do I have a second?
I second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote. All those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And those opposed, the same, and let it be shown that it's passed unanimously with all members present. Were there any glitches or things to this appropriation since it didn't happen in a timely manner?
Well, again, because we'd already approved the budget for last year, and then I just forgot to do an additional before I went on maternity leave in January. I didn't have time, and then I didn't get back till April, and then, so it was negative, so
But it was just a bookkeeping thing, it didn't cost us money anywhere?
No, it's just the bookkeeping
Okay.
formal, yes.
Very good, thank you for that.
Yep.
Is that it for the additional appropriations?
That is.
All right, and next on the agenda, will be the Commissioner's report.
Okay, I've just got a couple of things. Angie and I had a chance to meet with our liability insurance company, Star, which they're covered by Travelers Insurance. And they've asked us to have our facilities appraised again. I think it's been almost 10 years since the last time that we had an appraisal done. And they've given me some information on different companies that do the appraisals. The last time we had it done, I think it was $10,000, $12,000, but they're saying that we should be able to get it done for right around $2,000 to $3,000. So I just wanted to let you know that is coming up. Our liability insurance didn't go up, I think, right around 20,000.
I don't know the exact amount of
Yeah.
what it increased,
Yeah. But it's pretty reasonable, and it won't change too much when we have it appraised, but they're just afraid that with the building cost and everything going up like it has, that we really need to have another appraisal. And that's all county facilities. Any questions on that? Okay, I think everyone has the CETA program that the commissioners would like to present to you for consideration. I sent that email.
I don't have it.
I don't have it, but I've seen it.
Okay, it went by email.
Okay, I printed a copy.
Okay.
is it for, I'll go make copies.
There was another probation additional appropriation.
Yes, you're right, there was.
So this,
Yeah. What's the,
it's a request to the salary ordinance amendment. I was gonna do that when you guys asked me if I had anything additional,
okay.
so, yep.
So when you see the new CETA plan, what we've done is you'll see that we've expended the 75% that we were required to expend out of the CETA plan. And one of the items that we have is the drainage. Our county drainage truck has been, it's 2003, I think is what it is, and it's got 180,000 miles on it. It's got some issues with power steering, and now we've got some tire issues, and we had some tie rod ends that need to be replaced on that, and it just isn't worth doing. We were going to hold off until 2019 to get that, but we've got some great prices right now for 2019, 3/4 ton crew cab, long beds, for $28,000. And so what we'd like to ask council is if we could, instead of waiting until 2019 and putting a lot of money into the truck that we have, to go ahead and replace that truck, and probably in September by the time we get everything done, but we'd like to accelerate that.
George, I have a question for you. Is it possible that the drainage board could pay for this truck out of their funds?
We looked into that, Kim, and the problem is the state rules and regulations don't let us do that. And that was asked. But because each one, you'd have to take it out, a little bit out of each drain, and we have 700 drains, and it'd be a nightmare to do that because each one has their own account.
You would like for us to approve that?
Yes,
today?
please. The accelerated purchase of a truck
That's in your CETA plan?
for 2019, but
Oh, I see.
right now, Jim, it's got a bulge on one of the tires on the side.
So then the funding would come out of your current
Yes,
CETA fund?
yes. Our seat is replenished about $100,000 a month. We get that monthly.
Thank you.
So is that coming out of on-site offset, or are we doing an additional for that line?
We'll have to do an additional on that.
Thank you. I'd
So
seen it,
advertise it for the
but
August
I didn't
meeting.
have a copy of it.
So you're asking for 28,000?
Yes, let's go 29,000. It was 28,600, I think, is what actually is the cost.
And what is it?
And the
It's
actual
a
appropriation
Chevy
has not been
three-quarter
advertised.
ton, crew
So
cab,
it will have to be
long
approved
bed,
at the August meeting.
four-wheel
So if you
drive.
guys want to wait and approve it all then.
I thought the
Otherwise, it's
price
just
was
gonna
great.
be An
I mean,
approval first, then paperwork later.
and there aren't any around. And what they also told us, and, you know, we can take this with a grain of salt, but if we rotate it on a 2-year program, whatever we paid for it this time, we can trade it in for that money in 2 years. So,
Who's that with, George?
City Ford, Roy Roberts.
And what we're looking for today is just we're not going to make the approval with a motion today. We're just kind of looking for council support because it's not been advertised yet. So we'll just approve everything at the next month's meeting after it's been advertised.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
Go.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
Thank you. And that's about it. It's been,
I got a question on Project 7, dispatch computer system.
yes.
Is there any movement going to try and coordinate the two dispatch systems into one? Columbia City and Whitley County.
It's been talked about, Bill, and I know the city right now is changing everything around and they're expanding their dispatch, so I'm not sure we really need to look into that. It's been looked at before. We had a
Yeah, I know we have.
committee, 4 years ago that we looked into it.
It just, to me, it doesn't make sense to have two systems. And then the state, a few years ago, told us to
Yeah.
get to one system. I don't know if there is any teeth in that or not. We've never done it, but
Administration is going to be the issue,
Yeah.
basically, on that, is who's going to administer.
Location and administration.
Yeah, yeah. That $81,916 for that project, I think we've got 2 more years after this that we have to pay. It's a 5-year lease program, and then probably by that time, we'll need new equipment again.
Yeah.
You know, and then we've got to at least look at it by that time.
Get some turf protection.
I don't know if you wanted me to go through the CETA plan real quick and go over that, or it's up to you.
We're not going to approve it today, are we?
No, I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that you had it in hand.
Would you guys like to look at this on your own and then be ready for approval, or do you want George to go through it with us today? I think we're good.
We'll just do that next month.
Yeah, no problem.
That's about it. We do appreciate your support.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, I'll call for a motion to approve minutes from last month's meeting.
I so move.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please respond by raising your right hand. And opposed, the same, and the minutes passed unanimously with all members present. Councilman Barrett.
As I spoke earlier on it, I attended the State Board of Accounts called meeting on it. The one thing was quite evident, Whitley County is not unique in the problems of overcrowding with the jail. Every county seems to have the same problem, same situation on it. I brought an extra packet back. Bill has it. Anybody wants to look through it, see how the presenters presented the particular programs on it. I also noticed that we have one of our legislators in the back. I'm going to bring up the Otis Bowen Whitley County amount requested again and see if we can get some ideas on how that particular money is spent. They have a formula in which it is, and our amount requested for this year's almost $214,000, and we have no accountability on how that particular money is spent. I'll get with you when we finish up and go from there. Good State Board of Accounts conference on it. about all I have.
Councilman over there.
Nothing.
Councilman Baman? No. Councilman LaRue?
No.
Councilman Banks?
I'd just like to thank State Representative Chris Judy for attending this morning. It's great to see state legislators.
And I have nothing else, but I would also at this point like to ask Representative Judy if there was anything that you would like to share with us, or if you want to come forward and educate us on anything that's going on or any updates, that would be great. Absolutely. Please introduce yourself for our audience too.
Yes,
please.
State Representative Christopher Judy. I actually just came over this morning just to sit in and listen, and after the meeting, if you guys have any concerns or anything, I'm here to listen and take the State House. Summer study committees will be starting back up here in the next month or so, so that's what we're looking at down at the State House, and then we'll be going into a budget year. I do hear the concerns concerning the overcrowding of jails, and you're correct, it's not just Whitley, it's everywhere, and it comes back to when, I believe it was before I was down there, but they revamped the criminal code and leaving a lot of those level 6 felonies at the local level, and it's caused some issues. So I think it's something we need to look at the state level to address, and as far as funding, and we've heard this for a couple of years now, so I think it's something we really need to look at and address this next budget session. So, yeah, so I'm just here to have you bend my ear, and anything I can take back down there and find answers or anything, so.
Good. Thank you, sir. Jenna, what do you have for us?
Okay, so again, at your last meeting, you approved for Amy Motter in the probation department to give her field officer an increase out of her, I believe it was user fees. So, this is just the salary ordinance amendment that needs to be approved for that. But you guys did approve it at your last meeting, this is just paperwork,
That going to affect
bookkeeping.
now? Yeah.
Yes, it was July 1st, yes.
So we just need to sign it today because we've already approved it, or it needs to be reapproved?
Probably just to approve the salary ordinance amendment for it, yes. But Barrett did approve it and Overdeer seconded approving the
So we had a
increase.
motion by Bear. So I guess I would ask at this time for a motion to approve the salary ordinance amendment for the probation department that we approved last month.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please respond by raising your right hand. And opposed, the same. Let it be shown that it passed unanimously with all members present.
Okay, I'm gonna leave the date on there for now.
And I would ask, is there anything from the audience today? Anybody that's left here that would like to speak?
Anybody's left here like this.
Well, we have a full audience.
Oh, I thought you meant that already left.
Anybody who is left here, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't put my paws at the right place. Now I'm with you.
I'd like to just extend an invitation from the Mayors and Commissioners Caucus. We just had our caucus meeting last Wednesday. We have 11 counties that we get together, the mayors and commissioners. We started talking about the different issues that we have. The mayor and I had the first presentation, and they've asked us to come back for the second presentation also, which will be the third Wednesday of next month, or of this month. What we talked about is, since the councils have to approve what we come up with, we'd like to have some council members to attend our meetings and just to see what goes on. It's a good meeting. We get to, meet with the other commissioners, other mayors around. We're trying to hire a lobbyist right now. That $1,500 that we approved the last 2 meetings ago goes towards a lobbyist to lobby for our area. It's for the Northeast Indiana area rather than having everything go down to Indianapolis. So it's a great group. But they would like to extend an invitation to any of the council members that would like to come. It's at 3:30, third Wednesday of the month, and it lasts till about 5 o'clock. But great group, and we learn a lot from each other.
Where do you hold that at, George?
That's at the Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership on, at the old Standard Federal Building. I can't remember what they call that now, where it's on Superior, or Main and Bar, right at the corner of Main and Bar. It's 9th floor.
And it starts what time?
3:30.
Is there a trip to Coney Island included in that invitation?
Right there.
And Jenny, you had one last item?
Yes, and as you can all see that you received your budget books for 2019, your schedule and the calendar for the budget is inside the front. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And obviously in your list of department heads, you can cross out Paula, because we decided today that she's not to come that day. So there's no need for it. Any questions?
Thank you, Jana.
If you could, in the meantime, since Paula won't be here at 1:30, can you move the sheriff back to 1:30 from 1 o'clock, and that'll extend our lunch break then?
Yes. Yep.
So if you guys want to make that note on your agenda, that the 1:30 that was vacated by Paul Worden, the sheriff's department will be moved to 1:30 instead of 1 o'clock, and that will extend our lunch break that day. So if we get running behind, that'll give us a little buffer there.
And I'll make a new one and email it out to everyone.
Is this for me or is this George? Can I just make a copy of this or send me a copy of this?
Any questions, anything additional as far as the budget, or the budget schedule, or the binders? Now are you finished?
Yes, I'm done.
All right, meeting's adjourned.
Patience off the
Jim?